Good morning, I'm Sarah Sapsanamma. Let's begin with the headlines of the hour. Prime Minister Oli to respond to questions from lawmakers at the lower house today. 10 questions registered, majority concerning infrastructure development. Government seeks support from parties to pass ordinances. Janata Samajwadi Party Nepal remains dissatisfied with the land ordinance despite showing support to the others. At least 18 killed in a stampede at New Delhi railway station. Deceased include 11 women and 5 children. Several others injured. And Amanda Anisimova claims her first WTA 1000 title, defeating Yelena Ostapenko in the final of the Qatar Open. Breaks into the top 20 for the first time in her career. A question and answer session between the Prime Minister and members of Parliament has been scheduled for today in the House of Representatives. Despite its aim to hold the government accountable, the session appears to follow the same outdated pattern of inquiry as reflected in the parliamentarians' questions.
In a meeting at House of Representatives on Sunday, 10 parliamentarians will question the Prime Minister. Although a maximum of 15 parliamentarians can ask questions in one session, this time only 10 have registered. They have prepared to ask between 2 to 8 questions each, with most expected to focus on infrastructure development-related issues. Parliamentarians will question the government's preparations to address issues such as delays in completing national pride and priority projects on time, cost overruns, and the inability to utilize them for an extended period. Parliamentarians will also raise questions to the Prime Minister regarding the strategically built roads in 165 constituencies and the municipal hospitals that are stalled due to a lack of budget. Parliamentarians will also question about the government's immediate and long-term plans to address the drinking water crisis in Tarai districts, where drought has caused tube wells and rivers to dry up and excessive turi exploitation has expanded arid areas. Parliamentarians will also ask the government about the government's policies and priorities to improve the overall economy, citing economic stagnation and the inability of investors to spend. Additionally, questions will be raised about the government's plans to control inflation, which has heavily impacted the public. Questions about the current government's lack of attention to the meritocracy established by the previous government in universities, as well as the government's interventions and actions for reforms, will also be raised. Parliamentarians will also question the government about the controversial ordinance it has introduced. Parliamentarians will also question the Prime Minister about the government's plans to address issues such as the second installment for earthquake-affected districts, the rehabilitation of victims, and the reconstruction and protection of damaged structures. Therefore, the return of cooperative victims' money and payments for milk and sugarcane farmers are key concerns in the Parliament. Lawmakers tend to ask spontaneous questions rather than submit written ones. The Prime Minister has addressed these questions multiple times. Ministers and the Prime Minister frequently express plans and commitments, but due to lack of implementation, the same question keeps repeating. Lawmakers also submit written questions through the Parliamentary Secretariat, and the Prime Minister tend to respond with pre-prepared answers.
It is time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion. The question is, what is your opinion on the security negligence seen at the event organized to announce the Pokhara Tourism Year? Your options are A, inevitable, B, unnecessary fuss, and C, weakness of the organizer. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Now, the government formed by the partnership between Nepali Congress and CPNUML has completed 7 months in power. Despite highlighting constitutional amendments as key agenda, the government's priorities remain unclear, with little consideration for other coalition parties. This has raised concerns that their focus on good governance and constitutional reform may be more politically motivated.
After the party supporting the government opposed the ordinance, the two major ruling parties are now in disagreement, arguing they cannot simply switch to the opposition holding power. Unable to table the ordinance in Parliament, Congress UML has begun meeting with pro-government parties for support. This situation arose because the party in power which supported the government was not consulted before the ordinance was issued. The two ruling parties are attempting to sidestep these concerns and have succeeded in passing the bill introduced by the coalition in the House. These parties failed to maintain the trust of the supporters despite creating multiple mechanisms to ensure the government's effective functioning. As a result, confusion has arisen within the ruling parties regarding their ability to set clear priorities.
देश यताउति राष्ट्रिय सभाको कुराले केही पार्टीहरूले त्यो गरे हुनाले मात्रै समस्या हो यो समस्या होइन अब हाम्रो चाहिँ राज्यको सुधारतर्फको लोकतन्त्र अब हामीले सरकारले देखाउने कार्यक्षमता र त्यसले दिने परिणाम जनतालाई अनुभूति गराउन सक्दा मात्रै लोकतान्त्रिक व्यवस्था यो प्रणालीबाट परिवर्तन सम्भव छ भनेर विश्वास दिलाउन सक्छौं कुराले हुँदैन भन्ने निष्कर्षमा हामी पुग्यौं
The two main parties, rarely seen together in a parliamentary system, have formed a government, creating the strongest government from the current parliamentary equation. However, despite this favorable situation, the government's performance has been underwhelming.
प्राथमिकता भनेको सरकारको नेतृत्व गर्नु अब अहिले नेकपा एमालेका अध्यक्ष ओलीजी सरकारको नेतृत्व गरिरहनु भएको छ उहाँले नेतृत्व सम्हालेको मितिको 2 वर्षपछि नेपाली कांग्रेसका सभापति शेरबहादुर प्रधानमन्त्री हुनुहुनेछ भनेर सहमति भएको छ लिखित 7 बुँदे सहमतिमा पहिलो बुँदा त्यही न हो हाम्रो प्राथमिकता त पहिलो बुँदा हो त्यसकारणले हामी कुनै पनि स्थितिलाई यस्तो अप्ठ्यारो पार्न चाहदैनौं जसले कि नेपाली कांग्रेसको सभापति शेरबहादुरजी प्रधानमन्त्री हुने जुन पालो छ त्यो पालो आइरहोस् त्यसमा कुनै अप्ठ्यारो नहोस् हाम्रो प्राथमिकता अहिले त्यही हो
The government's actions so far, along with the Prime Minister's frequent statements that the coalition will continue until 2084 BS, suggest a primary focus on preserving the government's majority. Political analysts say this indicates that despite holding a large number of votes, the government has lost confidence.
सरकारमा छन् ठुला दुई दलहरु तिनीहरु भित्र नै समूहगत गुटहरु विभिन्न गुटहरु निर्माण भएको कारणले ती दलहरु एक्लै पनि उनीहरु आफ्नो एजेन्डामा कहाँ जाने कसरी जाने भन्ने पनि प्रश्न नभएको र विभक्त भएको अवस्थाले गर्दा प्राथमिकताहरु तय गर्न पनि समस्याहरु परेको हो कि भन्ने लाग्छ.
Analysts say that the government's confusion at every step is hindering its ability to set clear priorities, leading to a disparity between its words and actions.
And in this context, in our Public Voice segment, we've asked in several provinces, what do you call the practice of selecting a successor for leadership in a party claiming to be democratic? Let's take a look at what they had to say.
आफ्नो स्वार्थ प्रेरित भएका व्यक्तिहरुको मात्रै खोजी गर्ने प्रवृत्ति छ यसको अन्त्य हुन जरुरी छ.
नयाँ अहिले जुन विचार राख्ने नयाँ सोच राख्ने युवाहरु छ उनीहरुले चान्स दिनु पर्यो.
एकदमै दक्ष र देशको जडासँग जोडेको मान्छे जनताको चाहिँ एकदमै मर्म बुझेको मान्छे नै सत्तामा आउनु पर्छ.
जिम्मेवार भएको नेता हुन्छ उसमाथि हामीले विश्वास गरेर छान्ने अधिकारी खोज्नु भनेको त राम्रै हो लेकिन उनीहरुले देशहरु राम्रो बनाउनु पर्यो.
शक्तिमा आफ्नै परिवारको अथवा आफन्त भित्रकै कोही मानिसहरुलाई शक्ति केन्द्रमा ल्याइरहौं भन्ने उद्देश्य पनि हुन सक्छ.
कहिले पनि आफूले गरेको गल्तीहरु चाहिँ बाहिर नदेखियोस् भन्नका लागि आफ्नै सन्तान आफ्नै वरिपरिका मान्छेहरुलाई उत्तराधिकारी राख्छ.
विज्ञता भएको र उले काम गर्न सक्छु भन्ने मान्छेहरु जो कोही पनि आउनु पर्छ. म भएको ठाउँमा मेरै छोरा अथवा मेरै भाइहरु मेरै आफन्तहरु आउनु पर्छ भन्ने त्यो परिपाटी राम्रो मलाई लाग्दैन.
कसले उसलाई उत्तराधिकारी छानेको उप्रति उत्तरदायी उप्रति वफादार हुने भएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि यसले समग्र राजनीति र शासन प्रणालीमा यो उत्तराधिकारी छनौटले चाहिँ प्रभाव पार्छ.
अबको समय भनेको व्यक्तित्व खोज्ने सक्षम मान्छे खोज्ने विद्वान मान्छे खोज्ने त्यसले देश हाँक्न सक्ने मान्छे
पब्लिकको इन्ट्रेस्टमा चयन भएर एउटा सामूहिक र यो पद्धतिले आत्मसात गरेर आउनुपर्ने हो. तर यो स्वत रूपमा नेतृत्व स्थापित गर्ने कुरा यो डेमोक्रेटिकको भ्यालुभित्र नर्म्सभित्र पर्दैन.
सत्ता आफ्नै वरिपरि घुमिरहोस् पेरिफेरी घुमिरहोस् तर आफ्नै परिवारभित्रका वा आफ्नो निकटका उत्तराधिकारीहरू चाहिँ उनीहरूले छान्ने.
पटक अवसरबाट वञ्चित भएकाहरूलाई पनि एक पटक चाहिँ अवसरको खोजी गरेर त्यो नेतृत्व हस्तान्तरण गर्ने सामर्थ्य पनि राख्नुपर्छ.
Welcome back. It's time now for international update. At least 18 people, including 11 women and 5 children, have died in the chaos of passengers rushing for 2 delayed trains at New Delhi's railway station. The incident occurred around 2000 local time last night on 2 platforms as passengers waited to board trains to Prayagraj city, which is hosting the Mahakumbh festival.
15 लोग तो आधिकारिक तौर पर मृत पाए गए हैं, उनको मृत स्थिति में ही लाया गया है। उनके परिवारों को सूचना भी पहुंचा दी गई है। तकरीबन उतने ही इंजर्ड लोग यहां पे मौजूद हैं।
Dozens of people were killed in a pre-dawn stampede at the Kumbh festival in northern India late last month after tens of millions of Hindus gathered to take a dip in sacred river waters as part of the 6-week festival. European leaders are set to gather next week for an emergency summit on the war in Ukraine. In response to concerns, the US is moving ahead with Russia on peace talks that will lock out the continent. Keir Starmer, who is expected to attend the summit in Paris, said it was a once-in-a-generation moment for national security and it was clear Europe must take a greater role in NATO. It comes after Donald Trump's special envoy to Ukraine said European leaders would be consulted but not take part in any talks between US and Russia over ending the war. Senior White House figures are also due to meet Russian and Ukrainian negotiators in Saudi Arabia in the coming days. In remarks likely to raise concern in Ukraine and among European allies, Special Envoy Keith Kellogg said previous negotiations had failed because too many parties had been involved. Yesterday, Zelensky called for the creation of an army of Europe amid rising concern the US may no longer come to the continent's aid. Speaking at Munich Security Conference, he said US Vice President J.D. Vance's speech at the event had made it clear that the old relationship between Europe and America was ending and the continent needs to adjust to that. Zelensky, however, also said Ukraine would never accept deals made behind its backs after Trump and Russian President Putin agreed to start peace talks. Earlier this week, the US president announced he had a lengthy phone conversation with the Russian leader and that negotiations to stop what he called a ridiculous war in Ukraine would begin immediately. Trump then informed Zelensky of his plan. Trump appeared confident that his leadership style could pave the way for a peace deal in Ukraine. His rapprochement with Putin brought to an end more than 3 years of silence between Moscow and Washington. Now, Israelis demonstrated in Tel Aviv calling for the return of all remaining hostages left in Gaza after 3 more captives were released by Hamas as part of an ongoing ceasefire deal. Thousands packed the city's Hostages Square and another protest site outside the country's defense ministry to demonstrate. Hamas released Israeli hostages Ayer Horn, Sagui Dekel-Chen and Sasha Alexander Trofanov in Gaza yesterday as Israel freed some 369 Palestinian prisoners and detainees in exchange after mediators helped avert a collapse of the
We were very excited to see 3 more hostages back home today, but we are very worried from how this deal is going to end up, because from what we hear from our government, they don't want to go for the second phase of this deal, which means to leave too many hostages behind in the tunnels. Many of them are still alive. We know what they're going through over there. We know they are suffering and being tortured down in the tunnels.
I hope that our government will not harm this phase 2 and that they will start the negotiation right now. There is nothing more important than bringing them back home. So I am afraid that something will go wrong with the phase 2. I heard that today Trump said something to Benjamin Netanyahu, and yeah, I am afraid.
Yeah, it's a very complicated feelings. We are very happy with each hostage is coming back. But there is so many that still left there. Some are still alive.
19 Israeli and 5 Thai hostages have been released so far, with 73 still in captivity, around half of whom have been declared dead in absentia by Israeli authorities. Demonstrators marched to the U.S. Embassy in Dublin during a protest against U.S. President Donald Trump and the actions he has taken in the first few weeks of his presidency. Carrying banners reading "Stop Arming Israel" and "Freedom and Justice for Palestine," demonstrators marched peacefully shouting "Free, Free Palestine." In a shock announcement on February 4th, after meeting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Washington, Trump proposed resettling Gaza's 2.2 million Palestinians and the U.S. taking control of the seaside enclave, redeveloping it into Riviera of the Middle East.
So I think we've seen both in the Biden administration now in the Trump administration that the US has been a really strong and consistent ally of Israel as they execute genocide in Gaza and as they execute ethnic cleansing in the West Bank, as Israel annexes the Golan Heights and just flouts international law. And it seems that while you might get the occasional statement of, oh, we don't approve of that, but now that tack has very much changed. We still get the US sending millions, billions of dollars worth of arms and weapons and support to Israel to do what they're doing. And it's not good enough. We can't hold countries to different standards. If this was Russia doing it, we would be rightly calling it out, we would be rightly sanctioning it, and yet we've seen no action. And it's not good enough.
Well, we're protesting and have marched to the US Embassy in Dublin because of the absolutely blatant and outrageous threat by Donald Trump to ethnically cleanse 2 million people from Gaza. After 16 months of genocide being committed by Israel with the support of the United States and Western governments, Trump goes even further now and threatens the ethnic cleansing, a crime against humanity, against the people of Gaza. And we're here to say that we are standing with the people of Gaza. We support their resistance against this horrendous plan and demanding that the Irish government do not bend the knee to Donald Trump.
Trump's assertion of Palestinian displacement has been repeatedly rejected by Gaza residents and Arab states and labeled by rights advocates and the UN as a proposal of ethnic cleansing. Trump's comments came after a fragile ceasefire was reached last month between Israel and Hamas. That is all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.